Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It is Coach Fury here, and we are back with another episode of our Michigan Let's Play series of Draft Day Sports College Basketball 21 in the Human GM League, the CBGM. And last time we on the channel, in the last episode, we talked about the red shirts because that was the decision that was upon us. We had a deadline of when we had to do that by, and we obviously came to a conclusion that the likes of Sean Singletary and Jojo Geeson were going to be our red shirts, and I think that was probably the right decision. Anyone who wants to go back and have a look at that, feel free to. We kind of break down why we decided to redshirt both of those players. But we have now gone through a couple of days in the online league, and we've played a couple of games. We had an NIT invitational tournament going on, and we let's see how we've got on really. So the first game we played against Nevada, the Las Vegas Running Rebels, and we came away with a nice win there. I mean, Larry Beak is obviously going to be our primary sort of go-to option in this season. Really, he is a 5-star prospect. We are not going to have him after this season as he is a senior, and well, he pretty much tore apart the UNLV team here with a nice 21-point game, 6 rebounds, some assists and a block, and a couple of steals as well. So he had a good overall performance. Our other 5-star player, Sweetwine, actually was pretty good in the center, efficient again, grabbing rebounds for us, steals, and not a block actually, which is interesting. Although he did hit some foul trouble, it looks like probably late on. I mean, in terms of this performance, I'm happy. You know, we scraped through with a 4-point win, so obviously UNLV, a team not to be underestimated really this season, despite the fact they don't have any star players like we do, but they have a pretty good overall team. Unfortunately, it looks like Scott Ilsler and Marlowe for the UNLV team basically shot each other out of the game. Looking at this, but you know, coming away with a 4-point win, I'll certainly take that. We obviously had to step it up in the second half here. You can see getting 44 points. Our defense was pretty good, actually. We forced 15 turnovers. I mean, they forced 18 against us. But, you know, we managed to get some nice blocks, some nice steals in there. Our second chance points were pretty good. The fast break points we managed to limit as well. UNLV only having 4. So that worked out pretty well for us. And we came away with that one with a nice little win, really, which meant we carried on in the tournament. So we were then up against Loyola, the Ramblers, and we came away with another slim win here, really, to be honest. You see here that, you know, the bench was slightly deeper, used a bit deeper for this one, looks like, by Loyola and us as well. But, you know, we had a terrible shooting night. There was no doubt about that. Beak didn't necessarily perform as well, really. You know, started chucking up a little bit, it looks like. Iacona had a good game though, 13 points. We didn't get much performance from anyone else though, really. That was the worrying thing about this game. It was very much a case of, you know, we undershot, but we took a lot more shots. You know, we had a nice efficient game in terms of turnovers, and we managed to force them into 18 turnovers, which was probably, you know, the difference in terms of getting the possessions, getting the additional shots up that we kind of needed to kind of scrape through this one, really. As you can see, it was a very tight game again. I mean, we were up in both halves, but only just really. Not too much foul trouble, which is good. I mean, Daniel had a bit of foul trouble coming in. But, I mean, on the Loyola side, again, they had a guy, Prince, who pretty much shot them out of this game, to be honest with you. We had Oslo again with a poor shooting night as well. So it wasn't really the great offensive performance from either team. But, you know, we came away with a nice win here. We obviously managed to sort of win mainly through our 3-point shooting, to be perfectly honest with you. We did force them to the line quite a lot. So we scraped through in that one. It's 2 close games, really, to be honest with you. And then we played Wichita State Shockers. And that was a bit more of a comfortable performance, to be honest with you, mainly for our first half performance. Putting up 46 in the first half kind of meant that our second half didn't need to be as efficient as it probably could have been. We shot a lot better in this game. Also had probably his best performance he's had in a Michigan shirt so far, 4 of 8. So he's kind of growing into this. Beak again had a bit of a bad shooting night though, putting up the volume but not necessarily very efficiently. And our bench, you know, contributed okay actually. Was fairly efficient. Put in some nice, you know, dirty work in terms of rebounds, assists, and things. We did have 25 turnovers though to their 14. I mean, I think that's going to be a bit of an issue for us. I mean, see here, Osler with 6 turnovers because that ball handling is just atrocious. And the likes of Iacona having sort of 5 turnovers himself with 42 ball handling. So clearly the worry that I had at the beginning of the season that we don't have a decent point guard is kind of showing through really. The turnovers are certainly piling up. But, we still managed to dominate in terms of the efficiency. We managed to play pretty good defense against them, forcing them to 14 turnovers, which is pretty good. And, managed to pretty much win this one again through just some efficient offense, to be honest with you. Definitely more efficient than they were. And that's pretty much all I can say. We came with a nice 12-point win in that one, which meant that we are now, surprisingly, I have to say surprisingly because I didn't expect it, we are in the invitational final against Kansas. And we will be doing a special episode just breaking down that Kansas game and how on earth we're going to win that one, I don't know. But we'll talk a little bit about that in another episode that will come out the same day as this one. But for today, rest of this episode, I just wanted to have a little look at the players and how they've been performing. Granted, it's only 3 games and you can see there's inefficiencies in the shot and things like this. But I just want to see how our key guys are kind of are putting up in terms of stat-wise, looking at efficiency numbers and things like this. So one of the great things that this game has is on the insights page, you can go and look at lineup tracking, which is really, really handy because you can kind of start to work out what your best lineups is and what's your worst. So you can see here, clearly in plus minus, our best lineup is clearly our starting 5. There's no surprise about that. That's our main amount of minutes. But outside of that, it's really interesting because if you look at sort of some of the guys we're playing sort of heavier minutes in terms of lineups, so this one of Iacona, Beek, Allslar, Keith, and Sweetwine is not efficient. So clearly, Keith Daniel is the point here that's kind of making this an inefficient lineup. So we'll have to think about our depth chart and probably take him out and maybe throw someone else in at power forward. Granted, we don't really have anyone who is a pure power forward who I'd want to put in there. But it's useful to know because they're playing 10 minutes, and that's 10 minutes of basketball where we are not efficient. We are, letting more points in than we're allowed. Granted, it's only a small sample size, but it's useful information. And then if we look likewise, when... is that the same lineup? That's not the same lineup, is it? No, so... And then when we look at obviously the other lineups, we've got some that maybe might be a bit more efficient than that. We're not necessarily playing too much. So obviously when we put the likes of Belair's back in and Keith Daniel in at centre, which is his actual position, we are okay. We're not too bad there. But it's when we seem to be putting in the likes of I'm not sure about that. That's really odd because I'm sure that's similar lineups to some things that are happening here. Maybe not. So, I mean, looks like when Chris Buchanan comes in, he's been pretty helpful in terms of our bench position, Nick Campbell, etc. But again, because we only played a couple of games, we don't know whether that's scrub minutes or not, and we'll need to sort of see this play out. So we'll keep a close eye on this through the season, but we'll certainly take this lineup out of our rotation here because it's just not efficient, even against some of the teams we've played. So against maybe some of the more elite teams we might necessarily play in the Big Ten, we don't want that lineup at all these ones are down here. So we'll have to rethink about how we do that. But it's really useful information, and we'll certainly come back to that through the season and talk a little bit more about that. But let's have a little look at some of our star prospects and how they're doing. So Larry Beek is putting up some good numbers. His shooting's not too bad actually, 42%. Clearly, his mid-range game has been pretty poor so far. He's good when he gets into sort of that key area, and outside is not too terrible. And in terms of his abilities, mid-range, bit of post, and outside. So we won't necessarily start tweaking players' shooting stats at this point because we've only played 3 games. I want to get through the warm-up games before we get to the Big Ten, and then I'll start thinking about possibly asking players to change their play style, for example. But we're just doing a little bit of a look. So Larry Beek's putting up some really good numbers though. I mean, 22 points at college level is just insane with four rebounds and 2 assists. That's really, really good. Likewise, Iacona is sort of the supporting guy in the backcourt, putting up 10 and 7, which is good. I think the only thing I'd say is a concern about him is obviously that his turnover at 3.3 is not great, considering we are playing him at point guard primarily. Whereas if we look at someone like, I'm trying to think in terms of Seymour, is Seymour the other guy we've been putting in? Yeah, Shelton's the other guy we've been putting in at the backcourt. So he's averaging 1.7 turnovers a game. Granted, he's playing very small amounts of minutes. But there's an argument here that maybe Shelton might get some more minutes, and we maybe want to put Iacona in possibly a little bit more at the shooting guard position, and that kind of then frees up maybe someone like Big to play around a little bit more in a different position. So things that we're going to be considering, I think, going into the next couple of games, really. Looking at the small forward position, really, we've got Osler, who we've said is kind of shooting terribly at the moment, 28%. That's just atrocious, which is really surprising because he's not shooting very well from outside, but his outside shot's not too bad. So maybe it's just a case of the average is not necessarily coming out at this moment in time. That 3.3 turnovers per game is a killer though, and that ball handling is honestly going to kill him. If it was me and I was in the pro league and I was looking at drafting this guy, if I saw that ball handling from a small forward, I would not draft him at all, to be perfectly honest with you. He can't play at pro level with that, and it seems to be a bit of a theme of trend in the CBGM that there is ball handling is just terrible. I'm not sure why that is, but hopefully that'll develop as the season goes on. At least if he can get up to like a 25-30, then he's going to be he could possibly look at being a late first round, early second round pick at that point, in my opinion. But Osler's got to certainly pick his shooting numbers up, and we'll keep a close eye on that because we have the likes of Chris Buchanan in small minutes is shooting very, very well. Again, surprising because his outside shot and everything is not much different. If I look at his things, so he's mid-range, outside, and post, whereas Osler is a little bit more in terms of outside. But I was still, it's interesting because he's pushing on the door for us for kind of more minutes. The same with Nick Campbell, to be honest with you. I know that again it's small sample size, and his mid-range game he's been pretty efficient. Again, he's coming in off the bench, he's playing bench minutes. But there are two guys who are just two stars who might be better having more minutes, and we might be better putting Osler against some of the bench opposition just to get his shooting back up to par. So it's something we'll have to consider. Again, we'll see how a couple of games go. Probably after like 5 games or so with Osler, we'll review his minutes, to be honest with you, because I just like the fact he's got great defensive ability, rebounding ability, his passing is awesome for a small forward, and he can steal the ball. So I like everything else he brings, but that shooting number, if he carries on putting up 10 shots a game and shooting 2 of 10, then that's not where we need to be. However, in obviously the last game, he was 4 of 8. If he does that sort of number with the rebounding ability, the assist ability that he has, and the blocking ability, I'm happy to leave him in. The only thing I've got a question mark about is obviously I would love to put him in at sort of the power forward position and being like a stretch 4 for us, but at 6'4", he's a little bit too undersized for my liking to go in there in terms of possibly taking up some of those minutes there. Moving on to the sort of power forward and sort of front court position. So obviously we've got Michael Belair's, who is putting up okay numbers. I mean, it's not particularly amazing, but given the fact that he's not necessarily taking that many shots, I can live with that. The numbers are not necessarily great at this moment in time. Again, I kind of expect a little bit better, given that he's got okay shooting numbers. He's obviously living a little bit in terms of mid-range and in terms of outside, because he is playing a bit of a stretch 4 position for us. So maybe we'll have to think about adjusting this. Again, it's too early to tell because obviously we've only played 3 games and the numbers kind of haven't materialised yet for us to sort of say, oh yeah, absolutely, we need this guy only living around the basket, or we need him living outside the 3-point line, not taking mid-range. But again, another one like Scotty Osler we'll have to keep an eye on. We've obviously got the likes of, I don't think Al Johnson's playing many minutes. No, he's playing hardly anything, so we can't comment on him. Bernie Sweetwine, the other sort of 4.5 star prospect that we have. 8 and 10 is perfectly good. 2 assists per game, 2 steals per game is awesome. I would like to see those blocking numbers come up a little bit though, if I'm perfectly honest with you. But I'm happy with those numbers. He's shooting efficiently. He's not taking those outside shots necessarily, unless I'm guessing they're clock shot expiries. That inside number's got to come up though. To be perfectly honest with you, for him to be a centre who's going to live under the basket we definitely need him to be like 90% in there, to be honest. If he can be 90% in there and sort of 55-60% in around sort of this area here, he is going to definitely be a great prospect for us and certainly be one of our key offensive forces. But, you know, rebounding, that's exactly what I want to do. He's doing fine. Keith Daniel, our sort of main guy off the bench, has been pretty efficient, actually, looking at it, shooting-wise. So that's really promising. Again, he's got good balance of shot ability. So happy with him. 7 of 3 off the bench in 17 minutes is perfectly fine. Again, I'd like to see a bit more of the shot blocking ability from him if we could get that. But that's the shooting numbers. Let's take a little look at some of the other advanced metrics, because that's always interesting to see. I like to see in terms of the stop percentage, turnovers forced, etc., because that gives us more of an idea of how efficient these guys are on defense as well. And instantly, I can see that we are a great team at forcing turnovers. Larry Beek, Orsler, Sweetwine, basically forcing 3 turnovers a game is just amazing. It's really, really good. Iacona and Buchanan with sort of 1 each as well, and Shelton. So we are clearly a good team at forcing turnovers. We have some good stealing ability in there, I would imagine. So yeah, 86 stealing, Beek, 78 stealing, Shelton, okay, 46, that's not great. 40, okay, it must be a little bit more system based than I'd anticipated. 76 stealing, that's awesome. We need to keep that going on. In terms of the points allowed, shots faced, you can see here Seymour is just not doing very well in his limited minutes. Everyone else though has been pretty okay actually. Sweetwine, I would like that to be under 1, to be honest. And Rice there you can see is 2, but again he's not playing hardly any minutes, I don't think, at this stage. Yeah, hardly anything. He's playing 10 minutes actually. Okay, so maybe we need to think about possibly benching him a bit more, because he's just letting anything go past him at this point. Kurt Rice just needs to be out of our rotation. In terms of other things, turnovers per touch. So you can see there Seymour is much better than Iacona, who we've been playing a little bit of point guard. So maybe we need to reconsider the lineup rotation and think about that going forward. Assist per touch. Well, I should say Seymour actually. It's more Shelton is sort of the other guy we're competing with, and it's actually pretty equal. Seymour's playing 2 little minutes to actually comment on that. But his assist per touch, yes, it's nearly double Shelton's is on Iacona. So that's a bit of a concern. We'll have to think about the point guard situation. But the assist per touch is better. So, you know... Oh, okay, sorry, ignore me. I've got this round the wrong way. So actually Iacona's giving less turnovers when he's got the ball and more assists. So that's kind of good. That kind of actually reinforces what we're doing in terms of Iacona playing point guard for us against Shelton. So that's promising. What else have we got here? I mean, look, you can see here Sweetwine, he's assist per touch. He's two assists per game. He's awesome in the paint at making things happen. So that's really, really good to see. In terms of stop percentage, yeah, everyone's pretty much stopping drives, which is good to see. That's great because we're not allowing sort of easy buckets and easy layups. So we'll certainly take that. So in terms of the schedule, I've just commented, obviously we're going to have a special episode coming up after this one talking about the Kansas matchup and what we might necessarily need to do there to kind of win that game. But overall so far, I'm really happy that we've gone 3-0. It's been very close games. I know the ranking number 6 is a little bit misleading, to be perfectly honest with you, because we've only scraped through a couple of these. So we're going to have to really tighten up our rotation a little bit. Hopefully get for a few more games, really think about in terms of shot preferences for players, how we want that set up, and really refine that hopefully as we get into the Big Ten regular season games. But yeah, what do you guys think? Do you think any other observations in terms of things we should be doing with this Michigan team? It's been a solid start. What else do you think we should be thinking about? I'm always keen to hear about that. And if you're enjoying the episodes, hit that like and subscribe button. And come back next time and we'll talk a little bit about the NIT final matchup against Kansas.